Hey guys, it's Noel, this is Wheezy Tech, and today we're taking a look at the second one of Beyerdynamic's newest headphones. This one is the DT900 Pro X. Again, this is just going to be a first look and not a full review. I'm going to take a look at everything you get, take a look at the build and all that stuff. I'm going to listen to a bit of music and give you my first impressions of it. In the last video, I took a look at the 700 Pro X, which is the closed back version, and this week we're going to be looking at the 900 Pro X, which is the open back version. Effectively, this one is meant to be a successor in many ways to the DT770 Pro, and this one is meant to be a successor to the DT990 Pro. So let's just get into it and have a look. So this is the headphone itself, where we have a bunch of cutouts on the back. We've got a little card with a little message to creators, because these headphones are actually aimed at creators. So they're aimed at bedroom music producers and content creators, I suppose. But certainly they're going for that creator audience rather than at audiophiles. Just like the 700 Pro X, we have this soft carrying pouch. Inside, the cables supplied. Let's get this bag out of the way. Inside, we've got two cables. Unfortunately, we don't have a coiled cable. We didn't get one with the 700, and we don't get one with the 900 either, which is a little bit disappointing. I would like to have seen a coiled cable in this, but both of these cables are terminated with a 3-pin mini XLR at one end and a 3.5mm connector at the other end, with a screw-on cartridge adapter, which is basically perfect. So we've got a 1.8 meter cable, which is ideal for people like me who listen at my desk with the headphone amplifier less than an arm's reach away from me. And we've also got a 3 meter straight cable as well. So headphone itself, we have these really nice big and thick ear pads, which seem to be some kind of memory foam. They are much bigger, much deeper than on the previous Beyerdynamic models. Let's take a look at the 770 Pro as a point of comparison. Let's do that. There we go. Just like the 700 Pro, these ones also have this different foam insert here, which has a thicker foam disc in the middle and a thinner piece of foam around the outside. Both of those seem to be much thicker than the foam that you got on the previous 770 and 990. Which was just a simple piece of foam, really. And I know that the foam in front of the driver, as well as the material of the earpads, the depth and whatnot of the earpads, is a huge part of tuning a headphone. So it may be that this new improved foam that they have on the inside of here is all part of tuning the headphone. This is actually very similar to what's inside the Tiger 300R, where it has this thicker part in the middle and a thinner part of foam around the outside. One major departure from traditional Beyerdynamic headphones is in the headband, where you would previously have had a spring steel headband that was wrapped in some kind of padded material, such as with the DT770, where you have this padded material that is then wrapped around and it's held in place with poppers. The Tiger is also a very similar design. This one is held in place with Velcro, but with the new 700 Pro X and the 900, I nearly said 990, the 900 Pro X, this one has a sort of rubberized, it's a soft touch plastic. It's not quite full rubber, and it's not quite plastic, so it's somewhere in between. It's got the Beyerdynamic logo stamped across the top. It's still got a spring steel on the inside, but obviously this is much cleaner design, so it's much more modern, brings it much more up to date. You can still change the padding on the inside. Physically, they look and feel like a Beyerdynamic headphone. You've still got the little cable things that connect the two ear cups together. The actual cup rotation on the headband is much smoother than on the old models. Much more refined, as said with the DT700. This basically feels like a more refined version of the previous models. And the same goes for the adjustment, where it feels much more, it feels smoother to adjust, it feels easier to adjust, it stays in place better. Basically, in terms of its physical design, it is a refined and improved version of the original. I did actually quite like the 990. I did quite like the grill thing that it had on the back with the sort of silvery fabric or whatever it is underneath that matched the ear pads. I really liked that design. I thought it really popped. They don't have that on these. It's just plain black, smooth black outside to the ear cup, and just some slits cut in the back. In terms of spec, I've got some notes here. So they weigh 345 grams. They're a new driver, which is called Stellar 45, which I believe means that it's a 45mm driver, although that's just a guess. I don't know that for sure, but this one at 48 ohms, and there's only one version of this, just 48 ohms. Super easy to drive. Ideal, in fact, for driving off of consumer level audio interfaces such as your Focusrite Scarletts and your Steinberg interfaces and your Presonus and things like that, which don't tend to have the best headphone amplifiers in. So making a headphone that suits that kind of interface, and it really just highlights the kind of audience that these headphones are designed for. Probably the most important new feature, I would say, is the removable cable. So you've got a 3-pin mini XLR connector on these, which is very similar, if not the same, to what I did with my DT770s with the removable cable mod. If you are running a 990 or a DT770 and you want a removable cable, it's a fairly straightforward mod. If I can do it, you can do it. I'll leave a link in the description to my guide I did on doing this mod, so go and check that out. Anyway, I'm going to go and listen to these now. I'm going to listen to a few of my test tracks, give my first impressions. I'm not going to do a really in-depth review of the sound, so I'll meet you back here in just a second. So I've had a bit of a listen to the 900 Pro X, and I've got to say that the clamping force is pretty high. From wearing them for a little while, clamping force is pretty high, although the super soft ear pads really make up for that, I think. In terms of weight on the head, they're definitely noticeably heavier than the previous models, such as the 880 and the Tiger and the DT770. So probably by extension much heavier than the 990, which is a similar weight anyway. This is actually more similar to the clamping force and weight of the DT1990 Pro. In terms of sound, we've got a good deep bass extension. It's actually really good for an open back headphone. The bass, both the bass response and the bass extension, I'm quite impressed with that. I'm going to need a lot more listening with this headphone than I am with the 700, I think, because this one has a lot more competition than the 700 does. I mean, at £220, you're looking at things like the HD560S, you're looking at the AKG K702, K612, K712, you're looking at the Beyerdynamic DT 880 Pro, and of course you're looking at the Sennheiser 58X and the HD6XX. So much competition for this headphone that it's going to be really difficult for this one to compete at that price. However, subjectively, my first impressions are that I like them. They sound pretty good. They are brighter than the 700 Pro X. They're a bit brighter than the Tiger, I think, although the Tiger has a bass shelf, a bass shelf that bleeds into the mids a little bit, and it can sound a bit muddy. You don't get that on these. This has a much cleaner sort of low mids and bass area, which is good. In terms of the treble, they definitely have a much more air and extension than the 700 from what I can hear. Maybe that it has a bit more treble volume as well. Like I said, I need to do a fair bit more listening on this. They are definitely brighter than the 700, but not to the point where I'm finding them fatiguing or annoyingly bright or harsh or anything like that, or grainy. They have a good amount of detail in that treble, so that is good. I would say they're more detailed than the 700, which is probably not a surprise. That tends to be the case with open back versus closed backs, from my experience at least. A good point of comparison really should be the DT1990 Pro, and I think these have a better bass response than the 1990 Pro, or at least, I mean, subjectively better. They have a little bit more volume and a bit more extension, but that may be because I'm using the analytical pads on the 1990, not the balance pads. I know the balance pads boost the bass just a little bit, and the extension, I don't use the balance pads on the 1990, only the analytical ones. In terms of treble, I would say the 1990 is much, much brighter than these. So if you find the 1990 too much, these are probably going to be much better for you. The comparison that I really need is the 990, and I don't have that here. So I'm just going to say this one sounds good. It's not overly bright for my ears, although I may change my opinion on that when I do the full review. Who knows? I might say something completely different, because it may be that I just haven't listened to enough on it yet, and I clearly haven't listened to enough yet on it. I'm gonna leave it at that for now. Like I said with the DT700 Pro X, it seems like this new line of headphones is a reimagining of what the 770 and the 990 are. It's almost like Beyer said, instead of adding a removable cable to the 990 and the 770, what would it be like if we just reimagine the headphone as if we were to take that same concept but make it today versus make it like 30 years ago or whatever. That means new modern materials, a modern build philosophy, a modern driver with everything that they know now. It's effectively a reboot of these two headphones. That's the way I'm going to call it. I think the 700 is probably more of a side grade in terms of sound quality to the 770, but a significant upgrade in terms of build. This one, I honestly need to spend a fair bit more time with these. So that's going to be it for today. I can't really say any more at this point. I'm going to do a load more testing, but this has been a first look at the DT900 Pro X. If you want to see the full review, then make sure you subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, have a good one.